So here we are in a pandemic on a rainy Sunday with Lent about to begin. And just to make things happy and joyful, we hear about leprosy. But maybe we'll understand this gospel passage better because of what we've been through. Leprosy is now known as Hansen's disease. And because of medical advances, and especially decent sanitation, leprosy is very rare today. But it was quite widespread in the past. This disfiguring disease begins on the skin, then goes deeper, destroying and killing tissue. Its lesions are frightful to behold. Where still one's extremities, nose, ears, fingers, toes, and so forth gradually wither away and drop off until death puts an end to one's suffering. Such a horrible disease, people thought in the days before medical science knew anything about germs and viruses, that leprosy must be a punishment for sin. Those affected by leprosy were regarded as unclean, not just physically, but socially and religiously as well. Such persons were to live far away from the community, outside the camp, in colonies such as Bethany, on the other side of the Mount of Olives from Jerusalem. It's probable that Lazarus was a leper, but let's not go there right now. They were barred from taking part in the worship of God's people, table fellowship with their fellow Jews. And there are times in history when they had to wear bells like cats to warn people that they were near. Unclean. People would scatter. In this story, we hear of this leper who begs Jesus to heal him of this disfiguring ailment. If you wish. And Jesus says, of course I will, and touches him. He breaks that barrier of isolation and actually reaches out to touch a leper. That's unheard of. But he did. And the man was cured. So Jesus said, well, do what the law of Moses requires, what we heard in the first reading. Go show yourself to the priests, make an offering, but don't tell anybody. Fat chance. This is known as the Messianic secret, and it is found throughout Mark's gospel and then Matthew and Luke, who depend on Mark to a certain degree. And the idea here is that Jesus doesn't want people going around, first of all, saying he's the Messiah, which he is, but there's always the risk that they will misinterpret what a Messiah is. Because people would have thought of King David in all his glory, a mighty king and warrior living in a palace wearing a royal robe and a crown of gold. And he wasn't that kind of Messiah. He's a king, all right, but not an earthly king, not a politician, shall we say, not a political king, but the Son of God who came to rule over heaven and earth when all is completed. Every time Jesus tells people not to tell that he's the Messiah, they can't help themselves, they do. And the downside of that is that Jesus gets besieged by people who want physical cures. And he's very clear that that's not primarily why he came. There are no instances in the Bible of anyone asking Jesus to be cured of a physical ailment when he says no. Of course, he will heal them, but his primary purpose in going about Galilee and then Judea was to proclaim that the time of fulfillment is now and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Anyway, as we hear this story, I wonder if we can put ourselves into it. We might particularly want to see ourselves as Christ-like, and I hope that in many ways we are. Willing to reach out and even touch lepers and bring them healing and comfort and inclusion in the community. Good. We may see ourselves as bystanders, watching this marvelous healing. But I suspect that we're supposed to, in Mark's Gospel and in the church, ask ourselves to what degree we might be lepers. That's a cheery thought, isn't it? And of course, I hope that we can say, well, I don't have leprosy. Nobody here does, I don't think. If you do, wear a bell. But I'm not talking about physical disease, not even COVID. I think we're supposed to see our own frailty and see ourselves as, in some way, prone to leprosy. A few years ago, meditating on today's gospel, I tried to think what it would be like and ended up writing, I'm a leper, not with any joy, mind you. My sins disfigure me. I'm a leper, my sins cut me off from the community and my God. I'm a leper, and I need to seek out Jesus, who alone can heal me and make me clean. So it's very hard to admit our leprosy, spiritual. But once we've done so, then we can kneel down before Jesus and say, if you wish, you can make me clean. And in response, Jesus will always say, I do will it, reach out and touch us and make us clean. And what Jesus says is always true. What he says is clean, and what he forgives is forgiven, always and forever.